Hey guys, Desolation Magic here, back with some more Theros Masters spoilers. That's what I'm renaming it. They added a bunch of heroic cards in here, and I'm pretty excited. But just because there's so many, I'm cutting out all the commons, so, go look at the full list if you really want to see them. Also, I'm skipping prices and history on them because I just don't have time. Also, I thought I made this really clear in the last video. I don't play Modern or Legacy or Vintage, so of course I've never heard of blah 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 so-and-so deck or what card goes in it. I told you this. So I will continue in this video to not know or care what half these cards are in as far as popular decks in the meta for whatever format. Get the hell over or get the hell off this video. So first up, Ancestors Chosen. It's a 7-cost 4/4 with first strike, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each card in your graveyard. Pretty nice. I mean, 4 first strike is pretty nuts, and then you'd probably gain a lot of life. So pretty good. It's just, there are better cards for 7 out there, especially Angels. Next up, Anger. It's a 2/2 for 4, and it has haste, and as long as it's in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. So that is unusual. Wow, what a shitty version of Hammer of Perforos. Next up, Appetite for Brains. It's a 1-cost sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a card from it with the converted mana cost 4 or greater and exile that card. Wow, what a wonderful third-rate discard card. Next up, Artisan of Kozilek. It's a 9-cost 10/9, so basically unplayable. And whenever you cast this spell, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield and annihilate or 2. So in other words, you didn't need that creature. Next up, Railsback, Blast of Genius. It's a sorcery, it costs 6, and choose any target, draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Blast of Genius deals damage equal to the discarded card's converted mana cost to that permanent or player. Wow, unpredictable and unreliable damage for 6 at sorcery speed. Sign me up. There are better cards than this in Standard right now. Next up, Boar Umbra. Oh, I love these Umbras. They're just so much fun. Enchant creature gets +3/+3 totem armor. This is probably the one I hate the most out of all the Umbras. It makes the creature way less killable with red spells and in combat, and then if you kill it, well, who cares? It doesn't really die. I hate those cards so much, especially when they go on a hexproof creature. So next up, Boneyard Worm. It's a 2-cost, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So kind of like a perpetually scaling Undergrowth. Pretty damn good card. It's pretty good in Commander. I think it would be a little bit slow in Modern, but overall pretty damn good. Next up, Brawn. It's a 3/3 for 4 with Trample, and as long as it is in your graveyard and you control a forest, creatures you control have Trample. That is pretty damn good. The only similar card I can think of just off the top of my head is Archetype of Endurance, and I think that costs like 8 or something to get out, so yeah, this is pretty good. Next up, Brazen Scourge. It's a 3/3 for 3, and it just has haste. Yeah, we really needed those Kaladesh reprints. Anyway, next up, Buried Alive. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. This could feed all kinds of decks. If you're running like an Eldrazi Resurrector or some kind of giant creature Resurrector deck with Rise from the Grave and other similar effects, this would be insanely good because you could just handpick them. No more self-mill or discard or nothing. Next up, Conflagrate, or whatever the hell MTG Lion pronounced it as. I remember it was something comically incorrect, but anyway, red +X+X, and it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of targets, and then flashback 2. But wait, you play double red and then discard X cards instead of paying double X. So the second time around this will do some damage, but in both cases there are so many better red spells. I mean, it's any targets, that's cool, but like, come on. I mean, just play like Rolling Thunder or something. This double X is just too damn much. Like, discarding that many cards, I mean, if it's Madness, cool, but still, you ain't gonna get much out of this. Next up, Counter Squall. Oh boy, counter target non-creature spell. Its controller loses 2 life? Wow, I didn't know Dimir had basically an enhanced version of Negate. That's killer. Next up, Dakmor Selvage. It enters battlefield tapped. You can tap it for black and Dredge 2. Oh boy, I love Dredge. It's my favorite deck. Every single copy of this set I open, I'm going to rip up on site. Next up, Dawn Charm. It's a 2-cost instant. You can choose one. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Kind of a cheap fog there, not bad. Regenerate target creature. Cool. Prevents it from dying, sort of. And counter target spell that targets you. That's right. One of the very rare, very limited number white counter spells. I think there's 6 or 7 in the entire game. It's so flexible. It's so perfect. It could live in your sideboard, or it's flexible enough you could easily mainboard it. Next up, they finally did it. They printed the card named after me. Clearly, they're big fans of me over at Wizards of the Coast. It's Desolation Lighthouse. So you can tap it for colorless, or you can pay 3 in crappy Izzet colors and draw a card, then discard a card. Wow, that is not a good card. In fact, I checked. It's $1. You're paying 4 to activate that ability because you're losing this land's ability to tap for mana. So 4 to draw a card then discard a card. Wow, there are a lot of better ways to do that. Next up, Dreamscape Artist. It's a 1/1 for 2, and you can pay 3, discard a card, sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, then put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Neat card, kind of an interesting way to ramp, I guess. It'll definitely thin your deck out of lands, that's for sure, and it'll, like, fix your colors after the fact if you didn't know what to go get with, I'll just say, Evolving Wilds, yeah, right. And then you're like, oh crap, I need a double black, then you can fix it. I have no idea if that's what it's used for commonly, and I don't care. Next up, Emancipation Angel. It's a 3/3 for 3 with double white in the cost, so then you know it's good. Although, yeah, it's 3 damage in the air, flying for 3, and that's always good. But then when it enters the battlefield, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. It does not say may. So I hope you wanted that gone, but any kind of ETB deck, I mean, this is basically one-time flicker, and then it's 3 damage in the air, so it's nothing too special, but it's pretty damn good. Next up, Fiend Hunter, a 1/3 for 3, also double white. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile another target creature. When it leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So basically, Fairgrounds Warden. I mean, you can target your own creature with this, and this is double white where the other one's single white, and, you know, Human Cleric versus Dwarf Soldier, but it's basically the same card. And I love Fairgrounds Warden, so hey. Next up, Forbidden Alchemy. It's a 3-cost instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, then flashback for 7, including black. Good luck with that. I feel like 3 is a little high, but whatever. Next up, Furnace Celebration. Looks like they're all getting burned. That'll kind of ruin the celebration there. It's a 3-cost enchantment, double red. Whenever you sacrifice another permanent, you may pay 2. If you do, Furnace Celebration deals 2 damage to any target. Yeah, in the right deck, that would be pretty tasty, especially some kind of goblin fling thing or something like that. Next up, Garden of the Blood Flame. That's a 5-cost 3/3 with flash. Oh boy, but when it enters the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Other creatures you control have haste. I'm glad they added that mass haste thing on there, because otherwise I think there's way cheaper ways to do this effect. Next up, Ghoul Steed, and he doesn't care that he got shot. Does he look like he cares? No, he doesn't care. Of course he doesn't. 4/4 for 5, pay 3, discard 2 cards, return Ghoul Steed from the graveyard to the battlefield, tap. So kind of like an overpriced reassembling skeleton, but you get the discard. That's kind of cool for Madness. Clearly they just threw this in here for draft reasons. We didn't need this card. Next up, I said I wasn't including commons, but deal with it because this is God's Willing, one of the best cards ever printed. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, scry 1, which puts it above, Blessed Breath, I think Emerge Unscathed. I mean, Emerge has Rebound, that's kind of cool. But still, scry 1. So if all of your opponent's creatures share a color, you name that color, and it is effectively unblockable. Also, it can't take damage, it's an ambush, it can't be destroyed by a spell of that source, the targeting would fail upon rechecking. I mean, this just stops everything, basically, except for, like, sacrificing and whatever. I love this spell. Next up, Golgari Charm. I think it's cool that they threw in some guild stuff in here. You could choose 1. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. Destroy target enchantment or regenerate each creature you control. Wow, those really seriously have nothing to do with each other, but it's kind of interesting to hold. I mean, it's a 2-cost instant, so hey. Next up, another Golgari card, Golgari Thug. It's almost like these are in alphabetical order or something. 1/1 for 2, and when it dies, put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. And Dredge for it, because of course. Next up, pretty famous card here, Grave Strength. It's a 2-cost sorcery. Choose target creature, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, then put a 1/1 counter on that creature for each creature card in your graveyard. Basically one of the best undergrowth cards ever printed. I mean, this thing is wildly powerful, and it's like if it's late game, you're going to probably need more power, and it's more powerful, but early game, it's probably not completely useless, but not game ending, which makes it fair. It scales up with whatever turn it is. Well, in general terms. So yeah, I really like that one. Next up, Heap Doll. This is a pretty cool one. It's a Scarecrow, 1/1 for 1. You can sacrifice it and exile target card from a graveyard. It nukes flashback, it's a chump blocker, it's dirt cheap, and you don't have to worry about colors. So interesting include here. Next up, the formerly $10+ card, Hero of Iroas, which is currently at uncommon. Nice. Aura spells cost 1 less, and he has Heroic put a counter on him. The only thing is you don't really want to strap a bunch of auras to him and then send him into combat because something bad might happen to him and then you lose everything. But it is fun while it lasts. Next up, Iridescent Drake. Ooh, that's some cool artwork. I like that. 2/2 for 4 flying, and when it enters battlefield, put target aura card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control attached to Iridescent Drake. Well, those go together nicely. This would be kind of neat because it's already flying. So, hey. Without a target, it's a crap card, but, you know, if you're playing against any amount of control and they keep destroying your guys with auras, this is the way around it. Next up, Mage Ring Network. I believe this was from Origins or somewhere close to it. Pretty neat card. I mean, it comes in untapped, does colorless, but then you can pay 1, put a storage counter on it, and then at any time you may tap it, remove any number of storage counters, not all of them, just any number of your choice, and add 1 colorless for each storage counter removed that way. So, pretty slow ramp, but if you had like an X spell that you knew you were going to unleash fairly late game, boom. This is a fantastic way to do it. It was kind of the precursor to energy if you think about it. Next up, Mahomati Jin. I don't know why they printed this one. It's not that great. It's been printed to death. It's not worth anything. It's a 6 cost 5/6 with flying, and that is it. The only reason to include this is because it was in alpha and beta and like a whole bunch of other sets. It was printed to death. It was even in Origins. It's pretty iconic, and it was in Iconic Masters. Yeah, old Maha has been around the block a couple times, all right? Can we just stop printing him now? I mean, yeah, 5/6 flyer is hilarious because he's almost impossible to stop, but, like, it's not a good card. I'd take literally any Sphinx over this thing. Anyway, next up, Meringue River Prowler. Oh, I remember this card. This thing's sick. So it's a 2/1 for 3, and it can't block, but also can't be blocked. You may cast him from your graveyard as long as you control a black or green permanent. This thing is the devil. I mean, yeah, 3's a little much, especially if you're playing blue, but you just can't get rid of him. He's like some super discount version of Squee. Remember, he's unblockable. They are not going to kill him in combat. I mean, it basically takes a spell to get rid of him, and then you just bring him back. And yeah, he doesn't have haste, because that would be OP, but oh, this card's good. Next up, Miraculous Recovery. Return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on it for 5. So basically a little bit improved version of Rise from the Grave, and I love that, although it has to be your graveyard, unlike Rise from the Grave. So I mean, 5's a lot, but if they took out something important, you bring it back with a little bit higher likelihood to survive this time. Next up, another neat, unique land that hasn't been printed in a while, Mistveil Plains. Mistveil Plains enters the battlefield tapped. Now, it is literally a Plains, so they had to put the reminder text that it taps for white. That just seems weird, but you can pay 1, tap it, and then put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. Activate this ability only if you control 2 or more white permanents. That seems really random, but, you know, I can think of sometimes you'd want to do that, just if it's a card you have to fetch. I guess maybe some equipment they blew up, that'd be kind of weird. I mean, hey, I'd go get Godsend again with this thing, and then just go fetch it again with some kind of artificer or something. That'd be pretty neat. Next up, Murderous Red Cap. Oh, I do not like this one. It's a 2/2 for 4 with hybrid. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to any target, and then has Persist. Because of course it does. I mean, it's only 2 direct damage, then it's 1, and this thing costs 4, and it only does 2 damage when it swings, so it's still not as good as you think. But if you had like a death trigger to go with it, oh my gosh, like then you start getting some out of this. Next up, Mystical Retrieval. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand and then flash back with a little bit of red added. I mean, it's an okay is-it card, but honestly, there's just better ways to do this for less mana. Next up, Penumbra Worm. It's a 7 cost 6/6 with trample. When it dies, create a 6/6 black worm creature token with trample. It's just like the saying always says, kill me once, shame on you. Kill me twice, just kidding, you won't kill me twice. I would have won the game by then. I get a 6/6 with trample. I mean, come on, you're dead. Next up, one of the best heroic cards ever printed, although not as good as Lane a Tower, Phalanx Leader. He's double white, 1/1, and whenever you cast a spell that targets him, put a 1/1 on each creature you control, including him. And by the way, I mean, I ain't gay, but that artwork, I'm just saying they're all complaining about, oh, too much cleavage showing on the cards or whatever, that they print this clearly to get women to play the game. I'm just saying. By the way, if they're going to be like waving spears and stuff around, I hope he's wearing a really good cup under that. Next up, Plume Veil or something like that. Triple hybrid, so I guess probably an Azorius card, and it's a 4/4 with flash, defender, flying. It's just nice. You can just throw it out and kill something, and then it's an obnoxious card for the rest of the game. Next up, Prismatic Lens. It's a 2-cost artifact. It can generate 1 mana, which means it's pretty cheap early effective ramp. And then you can pay 1 and add 1 mana of any color, so it's also a filter. This is a very exceptionally good card. Next up, Rally the Peasants. Oh my gosh, I did not know there was a card called that, and that is hilarious. So it's an instant, and creatures you control get +2 attack and +0 toughness. Because the villagers are pissed, apparently, and they need some more attack power, and then it has flashback 3, including a red. Am I the only one who really hated those off-color flashbacks that you knew you couldn't play if you didn't play 2 colors? Once again, as with most of the cards that have flashback like this, the only good part about it is flashback. There are better ways to do this for less mana. Next up, Reviving Vapors. It's a 4-cost instant. You reveal the top 3 cards of your library and put one of them into your hand. You gain life equal to that card's converted mana cost. And the rest go to the graveyard, so hope you didn't need those. This is just a fun little way to, survive a little bit longer, pull another control spell, stack up a counter spell, set up some kind of combo, just whatever. It's just an all-around good card. Next up, Rise from the Tides. It's a 6-cost sorcery. Create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. I remember this from Shadows. I played 1 copy of it, and when I got it off, damn, watch out. This was actually one of the F&M promos, by the way. Next up, Rogue's Passage. I really like this one. It's a land, it taps for colorless, but then you can pay 4 and target creature can't be blocked this turn. There are better ways to do this in blue, but this is a land. Pretty damn hard to destroy. So their only other option is to gain life or fog you, or, it's pretty narrow. Destroy all creatures, because otherwise you can make something unblockable. Pretty nasty card. It wasn't real heavily played at the time, but it was on people's radar. Next up, Sleight of Hand. That's quite the hat. You pay 1 as a sorcery is blue, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. A slightly selective draw 1 for 1, that's pretty good. I've got to point out, even I've heard of this card. This thing is worth some money. In fact, I just checked, it's $2.49 pre-order because it was in the Starter Deck 99, Portal 2, which that one's $11 because that's Portal. 9th edition, it's still $3, and 7th edition, it's still $3 because it's just such a damn good card. This is going to take a massive dump on the price by putting it in here, but, they're still kind of expensive for an uncommon, don't you think? Anyway, next up, Snake Umbra. It's a 3-cost, another one of these totem pieces of crap. Let's see, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Oh my god. And they'll just swing away because they don't care if it dies, because totem armor. Yay. I hate Umbras. Yeah, and I love the bestow mechanic. Don't try to make sense out of it. Next up, Songs of the Damned. It's a 1-cost instant, and add 1 black mana for each creature card in your graveyard. Wow, they went with manual undergrowth pretty hard in this set. Late game, this is crazy. Crazy. I absolutely wish that this was legal in Standard right now. By the way, although the only time this was printed was Ice Age, it's still only a 25-cent card. Still, Commander, though. Come on, that's a lot of mana. Next up, Spiderspawning, as I like to call it, get the Flamethrower. It's a 5-cost sorcery. Create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach for each creature card in your graveyard. Whoops. Then, of course, it has flashback 7 to hit it again. It's just another undergrowth card. Could be really good, could be really bad. It costs 5, but it's in ramp colors, and you wouldn't want to cast it early anyway. So, this could be good. 1 damage at a time, though 1/2s. All you gotta do is stall at the game. Oh, and they have reach, so what? Next up, Spirit Cairn, the card where they actually made a pile of rocks look exciting and interesting. I'm shocked. 3-cost white enchantment, and whenever a player discards a card, you may pay 1 white. If you do, create a white spirit creature token with flying. Nice. This was clearly put in just specifically to beat Madness in a draft, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of any other point to it. It's kind of a pointless card. It was only printed 1 single time in Judgment, though, so, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool that they reprinted it before it hit like $1, $2, $3. This could take off as a hot card at any time. It's not terrifically likely, but you never know. Next up, Stinger Fling Spider. That's a fun name. It has reach, it's a 2/5, and when it enters battlefield, you may destroy target creature with flying, so, not bad. At 2/5, ain't nothing getting past this after you do destroy one of the other flyers, I guess, so pretty good card, kinda. Next up, Stream of Consciousness. It's a 2-cost arcane instant. I love that artwork. Target player shuffles up to 4 target cards from their graveyard into their library. You better have a good reason for doing that, because you sure as hell aren't going to draw them. Your mathematical odds at almost any point in the game of drawing them are, well, basically well into the unreliable territory. Let's put it that way. Next up, Swift Reckoning. It's 2-cost sorcery, Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, you may cast Swift Reckoning as though it had flash. Destroy target tapped creature. That's just an all-around good card, and it's exceptionally good in draft because control is important. Next up, Unburial Rites. This is an MM3, which is pretty recent, and Innistrad, and it's currently sitting at 25 whole cents. Oh boy. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then flashback 4 with white. So it's Rise from the Grave, but once again, your graveyard only, not your opponent's. So could you really call this better? I mean, with flashback if it's on color, yeah, but overall, not really. Next up, Unstable Mutation. It's a 1-cost aura enchant creature, gets +3/+3, and at the beginning of the upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, put a -1/-1 counter on that creature. A little bit of a classic countdown. It's kind of like a reverse Ordeal of Heliod, or Ordeal of anything, really. It's kind of neat. I mean, there's a red card that's virtually identical to this, but for 1 mana, I mean, you could pump something up on turn 2 to some serious damage, and then, well, there's no point in them removing it, and if they do, they kind of wasted a removal spell on not many cards and not much mana. Next up, Urban Evolution, which sounds like they should sell clothing. I think that's what I said about it last time it was printed. It's a 5-cost sorcery, draw 3 cards, you may play an additional land this turn. Oh boy, how exciting. I wouldn't pay 5 for that, it's not a good card. Next up, Vengeful Rebirth. 6-cost sorcery, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. If you return a non-land card to your hand this way, it deals damage equal to the card's converted mana cost to any target, and then exile Vengeful Rebirth. For 6 mana, it doesn't even hit the damn battlefield? Wow, not very good. It depends on circumstances, it would be good in the right deck, but I'm not seeing it. Next up, War Leader's Helix. It's a 4-cost instant, Boros colors, and it deals 4 damage to any target and you gain 4 life. Basically Lightning Helix. Well, okay, it's literally double the cost and it only does 1 more damage, but still, this has always been a good, archetype for spells. Next up, Wild Hunger. It's a 3-cost instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 and gains trample until end of turn, and then flashback with a red 4. The only thing better than a fun little mid-combat ambush is doing the same thing again, although it won't be much of an ambush if they remember that it's in your graveyard. And lastly, we have Young Pyromancer. Remember when this card used to be actually worth money? I remember. But then they put it in Eternal Masters, so why they're printing it again, I don't know, but it's a 2/1 for 2, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token. I mean, it's a good card, I get it, but if they were sticking to just stuff that needed reprints, this really doesn't. But that said, this is $1, so, hey, whatever. So that's it for the spoilers. I believe we have seen all of the rest of the spoilers. I just didn't cover the commons because commons are common. And this video is 23 minutes anyways, so there is definitely some money in this set, and I've seen screenshots all day being sent to me on various platforms of complete idiots still selling this for $260, $265 pre-order. Wow, good luck getting them to stick to that, first of all, because these are some sketch vendors, and secondly, if you want a more realistic picture of the price, just go to eBay, where you cannot find this for below $289.95, is what I like to call it, $290. Hey, that sounds familiar. Isn't that exactly the dollar amount that I said it would be exactly on the day that I said it would be? Crazy, right? It's almost like I sell Magic the Gathering products in singles and have for the last 4 years and know what I'm talking about. Oh, just a reminder, all the Elder Dragons are still $3 trash. Oh, I'm never dropping that one. So if you were really serious about pre-ordering this, that train has already left the station. You probably should have done it when I told you to. Oh well, tough luck next time. Just kidding, there is no next time. They're not going to print another Masters. I mean, I told y'all, 260, 270 was a steal. Even Rudy said the same thing and agreed with me. When we agree, watch out. So I suspect this will be well above 300 on launch day, possibly. I mean, they are printing a huge, enormous amount of this product. But that's mostly because they can. I mean, I'm going to do an EV calculation as soon as I think I can, probably by Friday or maybe Saturday. But I mean, come on, even just feeling it out, it's gotta be 450 to 500 bare minimum right now. So hey, hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss my video revealing the EV of it and the actual spreadsheet to back it up, unlike other websites. I mean, I have one where everybody pointed to this, and this is right and you're wrong, and they included the rares from the Planeswalker deck in the calculation. What do you even say to that level of stupidity? There are no words, besides my method is correct and theirs isn't. Anyway, watch for that because it'll be a hell of a big reveal, and I will see you guys next video.